Morning folks, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters and the Pathfinder School. What I thought I'd do this morning is cook myself a little breakfast down here at my camp. And I wanted to show you a couple different cook setups or ways that you can pack things that will make cooking easier for you, especially in a longer term like a hunting camp scenario where you may want to do things a little bit more convenient and a little bit longer lasting than just putting stick implements together to do your cooking with. And some of the things that you might think about carrying as well. So let's talk about that real quick and cook ourselves some breakfast, and we'll just kind of throw in some tips and tricks as we go. Stay with me. I hope you enjoy this video. So I've got several different ways of cooking food down here at this camp, and not all of these would need to be carried, but all of them are options depending on what you want to do in a permanent camp. The first one here is just a tripod that's been broken down into 3 pieces so that it's multifunctional and can be used to hang things over the fire if you choose to do it that way. And you could use that to hang a pot over the fire from here by using a simple S-hook like this. You can hang more than one pot. You could add S-hooks together if you wanted to lengthen or shorten how far away that pot is from the fire. I'll give you an example here of one that's got some food in it right now, like this. You could also hook some type of a trammel system to this, which we've got on the other tripod, and that would give you more adjustability. And this gives you just a convenient place to hang things. You could also cook meat on this over the fire as well. But something like this that can be turned into a tripod as well gives you the versatility of having the tripod or having some type of a racking system like this. So beside that over here I have a tripod, and this is basically the same size, just a different type tripod, and it has a simple chain trammel that we've discussed in other videos for raising and lowering a pot over the fire. And the advantage to something like this is these are really good with heavier implements like Dutch ovens. And if you can change it into this when you want to, then it's kind of a win-win for you for the weight that you're carrying. But still yet, a steel tripod is quite a bit of weight because you're going to want, at least 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch stock at a very minimum on something like this. I think these are made from 1/2 inch stock, and so is this one here. And that's about as light as I'd want to go if I were going to try to hang a Dutch oven off of it. Now, the other things that you can do that are a little bit simpler than that are, you can just carry a squirrel cooker type setup where you've got just a stake in the ground and a combination pot hook and meat hook that goes on that stake. And then you can hang your pot from one side and meat from the other if that's what you decide to do, and you can turn this around to have the correct end over the fire so that the weight pushes down against it like this. That gives you a fairly simple packable system that doesn't weigh a whole lot if you're going to be in a short-term camp. And that's not a bad option either. One of the things that I really like, I'm going to show you real quick here, that's fairly easy to carry, and you can use only 2 rods if you carry this system, and they don't have to be real heavy-duty rods depending on what you're going to set on them. I'm using like 3/8 rod for this, and I'm going to kind of show you this from a different angle so you can see it better. Now what I've got with this system is, and really all you would need to carry would be these 2 3/8 rods, but what I've got set up is I've got one stake at the other end that's got an eye turned in it, and then I have 2 stakes with a hook turned in them on this end. What that allows me to do is it allows me to take these rods and place them into the eye hole. And again, all 3 of these could be just wooden forks. They're far away enough from the fire that you're not going to burn them up. And that really becomes the main problem with cook systems like this that are made from wood, is that this is going to be exposed to flame and heat. And even if you use green wood, sooner or later you're going to burn it up. But something like this, you can adjust to put your pail on there. You could also put your pan on there, and you can adjust this to whatever width you want. Depending on what implement you're going to use, you can move these closer or further apart. This is a real convenient system, but it does take up some length. You wouldn't have to carry ones necessarily this long. You could get away with probably 18 inches, but the longer they are, the further the outsides are going to be from the fire, so the more protected it's going to be if you're just using fork sticks on these 3 points here instead of something metal. But you can carry something like this for a permanent camp as well. Okay, so the other system that I use sometimes is Real simple. It's two forged pieces here. One of them is made to hold a pan, and the other one is made as a pot hanger. And both of them slide up on a straight stake, and they're adjustable for height. That's the advantage of something like this over the squirrel cooker setup, is that this is readily adjustable, where the squirrel cooker has to be shoved further in the ground or pulled further out, where something like this can be readily adjusted up and down for the length that you want. You can put this on the outside with your fire right here, and you can cook two things at once very easily if you want to, just like you could on this other racking system. But this is a smaller package to carry. I like this system real well. You could also put your bucket on this if you chose to. Either way, or your bush pot, your billy can, whatever you're carrying. So that is another system that's really convenient. So that gives you some pretty good options there with different types of implements that you can carry, as far as what you can put in your kit or what you can have at a permanent camp to be able to cook with. You've got straight up fire irons that can be turned into a tripod. You've got this system here that is a swing arm system. You've got a squirrel cooker system, and then you've got this adjustable V-racking system here that works well too. So really, what you choose to use is up to you and how you choose to use it. They'll all work for the intended purpose. It just depends on what you want to pack and carry. Okay, so if we're going to cook, we need to think about what we're going to cook and what order we're going to cook things in to take advantage of our fire and the state of our fire at the time. And right now, we're starting our fire, so we're going to have a lot of big high flames. If we're going to cook potatoes or something that has to boil, this is the best time to get those on. Alright, so we got 3 red potatoes in there. As that fire is burning down, we can move them closer and closer to the fire just by adjusting our hooks if we don't want to carry some type of trammel system. Now we actually have a couple options here. We're going to cook some salt cured bacon, some eggs, and potatoes. We could go ahead and boil the eggs that we have while we're boiling these potatoes. And the reason we're boiling these potatoes is really to make them easier to fry. But if I were just going to eat them boiled and didn't have the salt cured bacon to create grease for cooking my eggs, then I would probably just go ahead and boil the eggs or boil the potatoes and eat them like that. That would be my best bet for a quick and dirty. Potatoes are an easy food to carry with you in a rucksack or in a haversack, because you're not going to damage them too much, not going to go bad on you over a few days. So they're easy things to keep and cook, and they're very nutritious for you. I like the red potatoes myself, but you could carry any kind of potato that way. Eggs are a little bit different. Eggs are a little more fragile, and they have to be more taken care of, but the luxury of eating them on the first day of camp in the morning makes them worth carrying for sure. Now, as our smaller kindling type fuel begins to burn well, we want to go ahead and add some larger pieces of fuel to the fire now and get them heated up, especially since it rained last night and rained this morning. Things are a little bit damp, so we want to go ahead and get this fire heated up because we plan to cook with coals. We're boiling with a good hot fire. We bake with a good hot fire, but we're trying to cook something over coals if we want to cook it slower. Like our bacon and our eggs, we don't want to cook them over that big giant fire. We're just going to burn them up. But we're going to need that hardwood material to give us some good longevity in our coals when the time comes. So we want to add that to the fire now. I went ahead and moved that bucket down on that trivet system that swings in, that swing arm system, sitting right on top of that so you can see how that works and how that looks. Alright, so while our potatoes are steady boiling away there, I'm going to go ahead and cut up some bacon for this pan. Now, I got this new steel skillet here. I haven't even used it yet. I've used one very similar to it. They work really well. They're not near as heavy as cast iron. They are heavier than like the old cool handle sheet steel skillets. This is made out of carbon steel, but this is a French style that we're selling on our website, and they look like they're a really, really good quality skillet. So I'm going to go ahead and start cooking this one now and get it ready to be seasoned up. I've got some salt cured bacon here wrapped in just some muslin cloth, which is really all you need to do with that if you've got good salt cured bacon. So I'm going to pull that out here, put it on this cherry cutting board that I've got. And this Jeff White Camp King an 1/8 inch is just a great all-around meat processing camp and bush type knife for this kind of stuff. So I'm going to slice this bacon down fairly thin here. Get a few pieces of it in the skillet, and this is what's going to create our grease that we can cook our eggs and our potatoes in the end. Keeps it nice and protected. Drop that right in the bottom of your haversack, and you got, you know, a couple, 3 days worth of meat for sure that way. I'm going to go ahead and drop this bacon on here. A good fire poker comes in real handy because you can drag some coals over, some sticks that are still on fire and things like that. Beat the flames down a little bit. Get your skillet right in there. So what I'll do now while I'm cooking is I'll come in here and I'll feed some medium-sized sticks in from the back that are underneath my pot and continue to let those create more coals for me to cook with later. And that'll keep those flames away from my pan. You know, these steel skillets are going to take a little bit of time to season up well for you. One thing you want to make sure of is, especially when you first start using it till you get a good thick seasoning on it, is that you use wooden implements to manipulate your food, because if you scratch this thing up, it's not going to do well for you. You want to be careful of that. So use wooden implements, and you don't have to worry about pre-seasoning this thing. You know, you could pour some oil in there of some kind, some olive oil or mineral oil, and cook it over the fire and pre-season it and all that stuff you wanted to. But the best way to season it is just like getting a patina on a knife. Use the dang thing. That's the way to season it. That's the way you get a patina on your knife. Use the thing. You don't need to use vinegar and walnut hulls and all that stuff to make it look like you've been using it. Just go out and use it. It'll get patina on it all by itself, and the skillet will do the same thing. And I got to tell you guys, it doesn't get a whole lot better than this. Nice cool morning beside a warm fire, cooking up some hot breakfast. Man, oh man. That's good living right there. You know, one of the advantages that I see to this movable trivet system here, this swinging system, is that you can get that thing almost right down on top of your coals if you want to, and it gives you a nice steady platform to put that pot or that skillet on. And with that swing arm, that other swing arm that holds your pot, you know, you have no problem bringing that thing around as well and putting it over the fire just here to keep your other pot warm if you wanted to do that while you were cooking, just like this. So now I'm cooking two things at once, and if I need to adjust it up or down, as long as I've got myself some kind of a fire poker, I can just pick that thing up and move it, you know, a 1/4 inch at a time or whatever the case may be to get it where I want it over those coals. So this system right here works really, really well. I'm really fond of this system because of that. One of the things you always want to make sure of is if you're dealing with metal skillets and things like that, is that you've got a good heavy-duty glove to grab that stuff with, because you just don't know how hot it is until you grab a hold of it. And sometimes that's when it's too late, especially when you're dealing with cast iron or heavy sheet steel like this. You really want to be careful of that for safety's sake. Again, if I think I'm a little bit too close to my cook fire, very, very easy to adjust this system. Pick it up a little bit, right back to cooking again. Okay, our bacon's just about right here. One spot on this piece right here I want to cook a little bit more. The rest of it looks pretty good. Oh yeah. Alright, so we'll go ahead and get a couple of these out and stick them on our cutting board here for the moment. We'll let that dude cook just a shade longer. And then we'll be ready to cook the eggs. Alright, so we got our eggs in here scrambled up, and we're going to put our potatoes in here pretty quick like. Once we get these cooked just a little bit. We're going to add our potatoes into that. They should be good and hot. Oh yeah. Now if these potatoes are right, shouldn't take much to just cut these dudes up. Look how easy that's cutting. Them things are cooked just right. Okay, so now my favorite little Old Bay garlic and herb on here, right in the mix. And then just get to cooking it here. Again, like I said, this skillet's going to season up as you go, so don't worry too much about it. If your potatoes are good and cooked, it's not going to take long for this thing to be an awesome plate of food. Well, that stuff's looking just about good now, I'll tell you. Just kind of cutting those potatoes down a little bit, slices. It'll help them cook through just a little bit. Now, if you get to the point where you're sticking a little bit to the skillet, or you think your food's drying out a little bit on you, just add a little bit of water from your pot. Just like that. Move it around in there and you can cook that water right off the food. It's going to evaporate right off your food, but it's going to help you moisten your food up a little bit. If your cook time is taking you a little while and you think things are drying out. Alright, it's pretty good. Now, just a little bit more Old Bay on here, just because it looks like it needs more. I don't know that it does. Remember what I said about the metal on this thing when you first start using it. I like to use these old military issue spoons and forks, and they've got pretty soft edges on them. I wouldn't want to stick a fork in here, but I wouldn't mind using a spoon to eat with, as long as it had nice soft edges like that. I didn't think it was going to scratch it up. Or I could just eat with my spatula, as far as that goes. But we're nice and cooked now. We got a couple nice slabs of bacon here to go with it. Oh yeah. Holy cow. That is a good plate of food right there. Man. Now while we're eating our food here, we're going to throw a few more sticks on the fire, because here in a minute we're going to put our skillet on there with some water in it, and boil that food out of it, and that's how we're going to clean that skillet. So we'll do that while we're eating. Let that fire get built up. Okay, so clean up. I'll bring this trivet right back over here. Get some water. Let them flames come up. Get that thing boiling good. Remember, we got our utensils to clean too. All right, so as this starts to cook and boil, I'm coming in here with my spatula, and I'm just kind of scraping anything off the edges. Slosh some water up on there. A bandana works fine for this as well, but the edge of your spatula will do the job. Make sure you kind of scrape the bottom. Now I usually dump that first one out and put fresh water in there, and that's what I'm going to clean my silverware and stuff in once it starts boiling. Alright, so we got the water heated up again, second time. Now we're just going to clean up our utensils, slosh them around in there, wipe them off with a rag, call it good. Boiling water kills about everything. As far as the skillet goes, I'm going to dump the water out of it now on the back side of my fire. Wipe it out with the rag and call it good. Easy enough to wash a rag in hot water and hang it out to dry. That thing's good to go for the next time. Alright, so as far as cleanup goes, the last thing I would tell you is take that rag and dip it in some of that hot water. Wipe your cutting board down. If you've got that thing oiled up good, anything that's on the surface should wipe right off. It should be good to go, and you can put that right back in your haversack or wherever you store it. I got one piece of bacon left right here with Rufus's name all over it, so I'm going to take that to him. I appreciate you guys joining me today for this video. I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your views. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.